Joined by the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. He is with us from New York City, where I believe he has spent part of today so far with Donald Trump, who is in the courtroom today in New York City dealing with the insane lawfare that is continuing to play itself out there. And you got a bunch you want to talk about with us, and we appreciate you coming on, Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. But I actually want to start with you. You have been through, maybe more than almost anyone, lawfare of an unprecedented degree with people coming after you in the state of Texas. Have you talked about that with Trump, walked through what happened to you? And is there any lesson that you can draw from what happened to you that you think could be applied to what Trump is going through right now?
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I was literally just talking to him, and I walked out. We're eating lunch to go get on this radio show. And that's something we've talked about often, about how many times since I've been in office, how many times they've come after me. And the goal is they try to wear you down. They try to drain you of your resources. They try to use the media to force you to resign without ever proving anything. And it is so frustrating that we're having to deal with this. And I'm sitting here listening to this trial today, and I'm like, this is just a waste of time. Weeks and weeks of just wasting people's times and putting President Trump under stress that he shouldn't have to be under. It's sad. I'm sitting here thinking it's just sad that we're at this place in our country where the left uses the court system not to promote justice, not to enforce the rule of law, but to try to take out political opponents. And that's exactly what they're doing to him. They've done it to me.
Attorney General Paxton, thanks for being with us. What are your hopes here as you're observing firsthand what's going on in New York? If the system is going to maintain any sense of integrity and if people are going to be able to have any belief in its fairness going forward, clearly you can't get a guilty verdict against Donald Trump because that would just be giving the lawfare crowd exactly what they want. But are there any things that we should expect in terms of what the Trump defense is going to be putting forward, either as claims or as motions in the court, that you think could help bring about at least a hung jury, if not an acquittal?
So I'm not necessarily part of their legal strategy. I just wanted to come show support for the president and then speak out generally on the issue of what's going on here. I mean, we know that he's in a place where it's difficult to win. He's got a judge that is probably not the fairest.
Well, then tell me this: how's he doing? I mean, if you don't want to get into the strategy aspect of it, I mean, how's his state of mind? The whole thing, it just must be like he's living in some Kafka nightmare.
Well, look, I think it's frustrating to him that he can't get on the campaign trail. He's running for, think about it. They timed this so that he would occur while he's running for president of the United States. This didn't happen 3 years ago. This didn't happen 2 years ago. It didn't even happen a year ago. It's happening right now, right before a presidential election. And I think that's very, very frustrating to him. But I will say this. He's a very upbeat guy, despite the fact that they are trying to destroy his life. So, I mean, literally, he's one of the most upbeat people I've ever met, and he's so resilient. I'm really proud of him.
We're talking to the Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton. Right now, in addition to the lawfare that's going on with Trump, you've got all sorts of craziness breaking out on university campuses, just up the road from where you guys are now at Columbia, but also back in the state of Texas at the University of Texas at Austin, and I believe at Rice, among others. What should happen to anti-Israel protesters in your mind? And how much would you like to have the authority to resolve what's going on at Columbia and NYU right now? How easy would it be to apply the law and in these protests if Blue City and Blue State attorney generals and law enforcement were willing to do so?
Yeah, there's a big difference between exercising your First Amendment rights. I think everybody has a right to speak on whatever they want to speak about until you start threatening other people and you start causing harm to other people, like blocking roads. They should never be allowed to block roads. They should be arrested if they're putting people at risk. They're slowing down transportation. There are places you can protest, and people should have every right to have their beliefs and say what they believe. This is a free country, and we have a First Amendment. But when you start threatening other people and you start causing harm to other people, you should be arrested for that harm. And that's not happening in this country now.
There's a report out, and I don't know if you've gotten this report yourself or if you have some idea of it, but this is Lily Kepner. I shared this on Twitter. A source at University of Texas, Austin, tells me of the 77 arrests at yesterday's protest, 46 were not Texas students. I believe that's around 60% of the arrests, not Texas students. When you see these protests happening all over the place, and you see a lot of these green pup tents suddenly emerge all over the place as well, a lot of our listeners, a lot of us think there's a lot of money being put behind this. These are not oftentimes college kids, if these numbers are accurate at Texas. How much of this is a nationwide issue? And should there be an investigation into who's funding these protests and how these all came about? Because it sure feels very organized that this would suddenly emerge so rapidly, so many different places.
Yeah, and it reminds me very much of what happened when we had the BLM protests and the Antifa protests. As we well know now, many of these people were being paid to come into different cities and states to do the protests. They weren't just organic protests. So, yeah, I'd love to know what's going on. I'd love to know who's behind these, what I would call non-organic protests that are being organized by somebody in a central location.
Speaking to Attorney General Ken Paxton of state of Texas, AG for the state of Texas, do you think that these protests are likely to continue on in the places that they seem to have, at least so far, had the greatest resonance? I mean, to me, as it gets warmer, especially in places like New York and DC, these people have no incentive other than to continue on what they're doing, right? They seem to love the attention. Maybe they don't love the pepper spray, but they love the attention.
Well, look, I think it depends on how we treat it in individual locations. I think if you watched what happened with BLM and Antifa, eventually, it went away, but it had a dramatic impact on some of our cities. I've seen, I saw a lot of businesses shut down. I've seen, hotels shut down. So I don't, in the long run, if we don't address it, the places that don't address it, they end up suffering the greatest consequences, negative consequences, for not dealing with real issues that affect business and commerce and people's safety.
Attorney General of Texas, Ken Paxton, with us. He's with Trump. Tell by President Trump that Buck and Clay say hi and that we need to get him on the show again soon, by the way, when you go back in.
As soon as I get off the phone, I'm going to go say that to him.
I appreciate that. All right, so you also are filing a lawsuit regarding Title IX. I know you're a big sports fan. Buck and I watched the Texas-Alabama game a couple of years with you down in Austin. The idea, and I'm sure you're like me, you can't believe that this is the world we're in, where I'm sure you saw Outkick asked Dawn Staley, hey, should men be able to identify as women and play women's sports? And she said yes. And now the Biden administration basically has endorsed Dawn Staley's perspective with their new Title IX law application. What are you trying to do to ensure that men don't get to identify as women and dominate women's sports and also, frankly, use women's locker rooms and take over places that otherwise would belong to women?
Yeah, it's pretty clear what Congress intended here. They designed Title IX to protect women's sports, to give women an opportunity to compete, to have resources, go to them, allocated and dedicated to women's sports. As a father of three daughters, now women, I thought it ended up being a great deal for my daughters. Here we have a situation that's just the opposite. They're rewriting law without going through Congress and changing the allocation to men to compete against women, which is, one, unfair, and two, is a violation of federal law and the violation of his ability. He's not allowed under the Constitution, I'd say him, Joe Biden. He's not allowed to just change the law. These are laws put in place by elected representatives. So we're suing him because we don't think he has the authority to do this. If Congress did it, it'd be a different story.
Attorney General Paxton, appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much, sir.
Have a great day.
All right, make your Mother's Day celebration a lively one with a great gift that involves the entire family. Digitize all of her old media, like VHS tapes, cassettes, film reels, even print photos, with the help of Legacy Box. Not only will Mom be able to rewatch memories she probably hasn't seen in decades, but she'll also be able to easily share and post them too. And she can keep them preserved since old media is degrading over time, but digital media is forever. This Mother's Day, Legacy Box is offering 60% off their regular prices. It's a great time to take advantage of this amazing service. Don't worry, after digitizing all of mom's memories, Legacy Box returns everything with the brand new digital files. 1.5 million families have relied on Legacy Box, including my family and Clay's family. So instead of being like, what am I going to do for Mother's Day? We're giving you your best go-to option as a Mother's Day gift right now. Legacybox.com/buck. That's the website you want to go to get this process started. It's super easy. Clay and I know the Legacy Box founders. These guys, their whole team, they're awesome. They love what they do, and they bring smiles to so many people who use Legacy Box. So make it a smiley Mother's Day. Go to legacybox.com/buck. That's legacybox.com/BUCK for their best Mother's Day sale ever, 60% off.